Welcome into Locked On Phillies. In today's episode, take a deep breath. The Phillies losing streak is finally over, but that's not enough. This team's expectations are too high. We'll talk about how they ended the streak and what I think they need to do to right the ship and get this team playing like they're supposed to be playing. We'll discuss all of that on today's episode of Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I am your host, Connor Thomas. You can see that on the lower third right there, of course, along with my Twitter handle. Go ahead and give us a follow on some socials. Locked On Phillies, you can find on Twitter at LO_Phillies. And, of course, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you're rating, throwing a thumbs up, subscribing. All that stuff really helps us out, helps us grow the podcast. So if you're enjoying what you're hearing from Locked On Phillies, I really appreciate that. And I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Let's jump into, what happened over the weekend with the Philadelphia Phillies. I mean, it wasn't a banner weekend. Thought it was going to be a little bit better than that. They lose 2 of 3 to the Red Sox. They lose another series, but after getting swept by the Dodgers and losing the final game in Houston and losing the first 2 to the Red Sox, the Phillies were staring down the barrel of a 6-game losing streak. That's not good, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we in the business call bad, and that's something you'd expect to see from the Washington Nationals or the Oakland Athletics or these teams that are bottom of the barrel around baseball. Well, it happened to your Philadelphia Phillies. Yes, the defending National League champion Philadelphia Phillies, who still have World Series expectations. So we're going to talk a little bit later in the episode about how they right the ship, but we're going to start with a little bit of a recap of the weekend. Now, first of all, first game that you had on Friday night, you're looking at a situation where Zach Wheeler faced off against Chris Sale, and the Phillies, they couldn't get it done. Not enough offense created against Chris Sale and the Boston Red Sox bullpen. Rather, I can't even remember who the Phillies are playing right now. Nothing's going good for this organization. It's okay. We'll settle down. But the Red Sox got going early. Rafael Devers had an RBI single in the first inning. Justin Turner had an RBI in the third inning. Then Kike Hernandez had another RBI in the third inning, and just like that, Red Sox are up 3-0. That's not okay for a Zach Wheeler start. Sorry, I know that's like if you give up 3 runs in a start, you should be fine. And Zach Wheeler, I mean, he ended up giving you his final line was 5 1/3 innings pitched, 7 hits, 4 earned runs. It's not awful, but your standards are much higher for Zach Wheeler than they are for your average major league pitcher, especially when the starting pitching is as bad as it's been lately. So do I saddle that loss entirely on Wheeler? No, the Phillies can win a game where he goes 5 1/3 and gives up 4. That's not egregiously bad, but if the offense isn't going to show up, the starting pitching when you have your ace on the mound needs to be really good, and the Phillies didn't get that. And Nick Castellanos had an RBI double, and then he scored on a JT Realmuto triple. And then Alec Boehm had an RBI single scoring Realmuto. All of that came in the bottom of the fourth. Those are the only runs that the Philadelphia Phillies would score all day. It was in that fourth inning. And when you look at Chris Sale's final line, 6 innings pitched, 7 hits, 3 earned runs. See, that's not totally different than what you got from Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler went 5 1/3, 7 hits, 4 earned. Chris Sale again went 6 even, 7 hits, 3 earned. So 1 less earned run, 2 more outs gotten, but that's not a totally different pitching performance. 10 Ks for Sale, 5 for Wheeler. So that's a bit of a difference. But bottom line is one of the offenses showed up a little bit more than the other. It was just one of those games where the Phillies didn't really hit all that well. They ended up having 8 hits on the day, which was even for the Boston Red Sox. But I don't know. When the starting pitching isn't going that well, I don't know who to look at. Do I say, Zach Wheeler, you're the ace. You're supposed to go out there and have a great start and help us out? Probably. Do I look at the offense in a day where they put up 3 runs and say, hey, offense, you got to give us more if you know the pitching isn't going great right now? Probably that as well. Just an all-around not a great game from your Philadelphia Phillies. A very uninspiring game on Friday night to fall 5-3 to the Boston Red Sox. Then in game 2, a 7-4 loss to the Red Sox. The pitching matchup was Corey Kluber against Bailey Falter. Bailey Falter moves to 0-6 on the record to start the year. He doesn't deserve to be 0-6, But, man, he has not been the guy that was big for the Philadelphia Phillies down the stretch last year as they were trying to make the playoffs. His final line in this game, and we'll go through the scoring in a second, but he only goes 3 2/3 innings, gave up 6 hits and 5 earned runs, walked 1, struck out 4. He labored through this one. He was not good. Put you behind the 8 ball, you're in trouble if you're starting pitching, put you behind the 8 ball. Alec Boehm actually got the scoring started in this one with an RBI single. He's still playing very well. Bryson Stott scored on that one. But Rafael Devers, a double, 2 RBI double in the fourth. The fourth inning was what killed the Phillies in the first 2 games. A Royal single to left, RBI single, 2 RBI single. McGuire, 2 RBI single. All of this came off Bailey Falter in the fourth. Then the Phillies tried to claw back a little bit. Bottom of the fourth, they answer, which the Phillies, I've brought this up before, they've done a good job of that this year. The offense, when you give up a big inning defensively or pitching-wise, whatever you want to saddle that on, the offense has been pretty good at responding, maybe not evenly, like they're not scoring 3 runs every time someone scores 3 runs, but they score a lot when they give up those bad innings. So that's the sign of a resilient offense. The offense is not the problem with this team right now. But Edmundo Sosa had an RBI single in the bottom of the fourth to make it 5-2. Then Bryce Harper. Been waiting for this. Bryce Harper hit his first home run of the year. Left center field, power alley. I think we've seen him hit the ball to left center a couple times in big moments. Not that this was a big moment, but I made it 5-3. But then Boston would extend an RBI double for Refsnyder. In the top of the 6th would make it 7-3. And Trey Turner would homer in the bottom of the 7th. But the Boston bullpen was shut down. The Phillies had to use a lot of their bullpen on Saturday. Luis Ortiz, Connor Brogdon, Seranthony Dominguez, Hoffman, who just came up. So Jeff Hoffman, not just came up, but I mean, he's just now becoming a part of the team. He was with the Reds before. He's not a guy that's really been a super proven major league pitcher. I mean, he's pitched about 350 innings at the major league level. So he's not totally new, but he's not a guy that's a veteran that's been around forever. He went ahead and out there. He's going to have to be part of the bullpen as Andrew Bellotti tries to work back. 1 inning scoreless for him, 2 walks, which was not great to see, but 2 strikeouts. And then Gregory Soto rounded it out. Honestly, the bullpen wasn't bad besides Connor Brogdon giving up 2 earned runs. And that was on that 2 RBI double in the 6th inning. The rest of the bullpen was fine. And the bullpen doesn't really scare me all that much right now. I'm seeing what they're doing, and I say you can win with that type of performance from the bullpen. It really comes down to the starting pitching. My biggest issue with this team right now is the starting pitching. Luckily, in the final game of the series, they got good starting pitching from Taijuan Walker. Walker's final line in the Phillies 6-1 win yesterday. 6 innings pitched, 3 hitter, struck out 6, only gave up 1 earned run. That's winning pitching right there. All you need to do to end it up is Alvarado goes 1, kind of a weird spot where he goes in the 7th. And then Matt Strahm, who's been moved to the bullpen anticipating the return of Ranger Suarez, he went 2 innings pitched, allowed 1 hit, no earned runs, no walks, 3 strikeouts for him. I'll tell you what, this bullpen was good already. With Matt Strahm moving to the bullpen, they're going to be really, really good. They're in a situation where you have Alvarado, you have Dominguez when he's going right. You have Gregory Soto, who I really like. Craig Kimbrell, when he's not closing, I think is an okay piece. And then you add Matt Strahm to the mix as another lefty option behind Alvarado behind Soto. Yeah, Alvarado and Soto. I'm an idiot. They're basically the same guy. You get an opportunity to make that bullpen even stronger without having to make any type of actual roster moves. So that's good. Ranger Suarez, fringe benefits of him being back. The major benefit is hopefully he'll be really good in a starting role, and you won't have to worry about a starter 2 of every 5 games that's going to not give you a chance to win, because that's what it's been this year. And that's tough. You can't win that way because Wheeler's going to have an off day. Nola's going to have multiple off days. Taijuan Walker is going to have off days. You can't have 2 guys at the bottom or 2 guys in that rotation, in those names that I named. They're just automatic losses. And Bailey Falter has been that this year. And Matt Strahm, he stepped up at points, but he's not a starter over the long-term course of a baseball season. So, but hey, a nice 6-1 win for the Philadelphia Phillies. I don't want to dwell on the negative too much because we're going to get into the starting pitching conversation coming up. But Nick Castellanos had a nice game. He hit into a fielder's choice that scored Bryson Stott in the 4th inning. 4th innings were big in this series. For some reason, the first couple were just quiet, and then by the 4th, teams broke through. But then also in the bottom of the 4th, ending another streak, not just the Phillies' 6-game losing streak, but Kyle Schwarber was 0 for his last 21. He had a single to right, scoring Bryce Harper to make it 2-0. Tristan Casas made it 1-2 with a home run to center field, but that's all that Boston would get off of the Philadelphia Phillies in general and Taijuan Walker. Kyle Schwarber then came up after breaking that 0 for 21 streak with the single. He then hit a moonshot upper tank, 434 feet to right field. Great work by him. Seems like he just got the monkey off of his back and came through. And then JT Realmuto had a 2 RBI single in the 8th inning to make it 6-1. 6-1, and that would be the final score of that one. The best part about the Phillies game is the timing was perfect. Finished right as the Sixers were coming on. So even though Boston took, we talked on Friday about it being a matchup with Boston this weekend, and the Phillies having 3 with the Red Sox and the Sixers having 2 with the Celtics. Even though Boston took three of those 5 games, you still got an opportunity for a nice Sunday where the Phillies won and the Sixers won. It makes you feel good about the state of sports in the city, so that's good. And of course, we're keeping it Philly specific. And coming up, we're going to talk about the starting pitching issues. Is Ranger Suarez really what's going to fix this? I don't know, but we're going to dive into some numbers and we're going to take a look and see what exactly we can expect from Ranger Suarez as he returns. All that coming up as we continue Locked On Phillies. First, though, I want to tell you about my friends over at eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit, or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you're going to be back in the game in no time. It's easy. It's super easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed, right? Could you imagine if you guaranteed that all the contracts that the Philadelphia Phillies gave out were going to be to players who played up to that money and they never slumped or anything? That's what eBay Motors is. It sounds like a fantasy world, but it's reality with eBay Motors. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. Okay, let's jump into the issues with the Philadelphia Phillies because it has not been a good stretch for them. They're well under 500 at 16-19. That's, to me, well under 500. The team of this caliber with the Philadelphia Phillies should not be this far down in the standings. And they're in 4th in the National League East, but they're only a game behind the Mets and the Marlins, who are also struggling. There are 4 teams in the NL East that are below 500. And we looked at this as a division that could have 3 of the best, 6 teams in baseball. When you look at the Braves, Mets, and Phillies, and the Braves are the only team that are playing up to that. They've already got a 7-game lead in the division. They're a juggernaut again. It's annoying as anything. They're the only team in the division with a positive run differential. But the Phillies are 16-19. They have a .457 winning percentage. That's frankly unacceptable with how the Philadelphia Phillies are built. And you know, it's funny, before we get into the starting pitching conversation, Rob Thomson is starting to have some questions asked about him. He made an adjustment in the final game of this series, and that he moved Kyle Schwarber down in the lineup instead of having him bat leadoff, which is what he's been doing since Bryce Harper came back and took over the 3-hole. Everybody I've talked to said it's crazy, besides apparently Rob Thomson. And then you move Schwarber down and he breaks out of the 0 for 21 slump he was in. Coincidence? You'll have to decide that for yourself. I don't know. There's so many contributing factors, but I like Kyle Schwarber a lot better not in the leadoff spot than I do in the leadoff spot with this current iteration of the Philadelphia Phillies. Last year, I was saying, don't you dare move him from the leadoff spot when people were questioning him and struggling. Keep it there. Keep the lineup simple. Let them go to work. But now, with Turner here, with Stott making an incredible jump, I should say, in his second year, with Bryce Harper returning, like, you have too much ability at the top of the lineup to have a guy that, 1, is cold right now, and 2, can hit for power and hit a bunch of, create RBIs for this team, to just go ahead and stick him in the leadoff spot where he's going to hit solo home run. I know there's someone out there who's yelling at their computer or their phone right now or whatever you're listening to this on, saying, well, the leadoff hitters only lead off once, so he can come up with the guys at the bottom of the order on in front of him. It's only a one-time thing. Still, guys, Look at what he did last year. Look at the number of home runs and look at the number of RBIs. They weren't correlated. Well, correlated is not the right word, but they didn't seem to basically go together is the best way to say it, I guess, because you would expect someone who hit 40 some home runs to have a bunch more RBIs than what Kyle Schwarber had last year. And that's part of the reason was because he was in a leadoff spot. I'd like to see those numbers higher. And if he's starting to break out, keep him a little bit lower down in the lineup, not low in the lineup. I don't want to see Kyle Schwarber batting 8th or 9th, but I don't want him batting leadoff. And Rob Thomson finally figured it out. And Thompson has been drawing a lot of criticism because this start is eerily similar to what you saw from the Joe Girardi-led Philadelphia Phillies back in 2022. Now, Rob Thomson, he hasn't had the tenure with this team that Joe Girardi had. Joe Girardi there was already a question in the offseason prior to that. Should the Philadelphia Phillies bring him back after that season? Like, it's felt like his time had run its course even before the season started. And then they started off terribly and he got fired. Rob Thomson, on the other hand, is coming off of a World Series appearance, taking over as an interim manager, coaching this team to a National League pennant. He's got a lot more leash that Joe Girardi had in the 2022 season, which is crazy to say considering Girardi is a very proven manager and Rob Thomson has his first managerial gig at the major league level. But the fact of the matter is he gained a lot of stock from the fan base by leading this team to the NL pennant last year. So even though it's a similar start to Girardi, I don't want to hear anyone calling for Rob Thompson's job. 1, he's not going anywhere. 2, this team is fine. 3, I don't even need a third reason. That should be simple enough for you. If you want Philly Rob out of here, you're not giving him enough credit for what he did last year, and you're not giving him enough time to figure out how to work with this new team this year. The Phillies might just be one of those teams that start slow for whatever reason. The roster construction, the fact that you have a couple guys that seem to slump early on in the season. I don't know what it is, but it's a slow starting team. I do still look at them and I read the lineup and I read the pitching rotation and I say they're talented enough to make the playoffs and make another deep run. So I'm not going to panic until the math starts to not look good. And right now the math is fine. It's May, early May. And you're looking at a situation where you're 1 game out of second place in the division. We're not playing for second place, but that's not awful. Now, let's talk a little bit about Ranger Suarez and everything there. This is the kind of, just so you can remember, just so you're aware, because I think Ranger Suarez doesn't get enough credit for the type of pitcher he is. So if he was on a team, so I don't know if you guys saw it over the weekend, but Zach Eflin had a great start for the Tampa Bay Rays, who have started off just incredibly well. Such a hot team. And you saw one of their division mates in the Boston Red Sox this weekend. But the Rays are absolutely monsters. We know they started off the season with that long win streak. Here's the thing. Zach Eflin goes to that team. And not that they have a great rotation, but I'm just saying in different circumstances, pitchers may be valued more or less. I think Ranger Suarez is undervalued because we're so focused on Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola all the time. The fact of the matter is he's a career 3.12 ERA guy. Like, he's just super solid. Outside of, 2020, he didn't really pitch much at all. 4 innings. And he had a 20.25 ERA. But that was a weird shortened year and injuries, weird stuff. 2021 was a great year. 1.36. So that kind of more than weights it because he threw 106 innings. But even in 2019, he had a 3.14 ERA in 48 innings. He had a 5.4 ERA in 2018, the year he came up. But just this last year, 3.65 ERA, 155 innings. I mean, he's a guy that over the course of his career is striking out 2.5 times as many batters as he walks. He's got a 2.57 ERA. I mean, that's the 162 game average would be 2.57 ERA. He's a consistently good pitcher. So if you're underestimating what the Phillies are getting back when Ranger Suarez joins the rotation, don't. And that turns into a situation where now, if the Phillies were playing someone and your setup was Nola, Wheeler, whoever, Walker, Falter, Strom, if that was the case before, you might feel good about 2 of those games. With the third, you're like, okay, we got to steal one. Now you can go into a series potentially if the calendar matches up and say, okay, Nola, Wheeler, Suarez, bing, bing, bing. Those guys should be the 3. They should be favored in their pitching matchups in all 3 of those games. And then the Phillies offense is already good. That significantly helps you out. So we haven't seen this team at full strength yet. And if Ranger Suarez shows up and stinks, because he's coming off the injury, that's going to be a little bit more of a problem. But feel good about Ranger Suarez joining, and reserve a little bit of judgment on this team until you see the rotation a little bit stronger health-wise. So that's just what I see going wrong with the Phillies right now. My trying to talk you off the ledge, and I'm doing my best because I'm trying to talk myself off the ledge a little bit too. Coming up next, as we wrap up today too, I just want to have a short aside about how the city of Philadelphia is viewing the Phillies right now and how you as a fan should consume them. And it might sound a little counterintuitive for what I do. I'll explain as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. Oh, just a reminder, I haven't mentioned as well. The Philadelphia Phillies, where they're, wow, let's try and talk again. The Philadelphia Phillies, well, they're off tonight. They'll take on the Toronto Blue Jays in Philadelphia Tuesday night, 6:40 p.m. Go ahead and check that out on Sirius XM app. You can hear every pitch of the Phillies hometown broadcast. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies to hear that game. That series starts tomorrow, short 2-game set. We'll go ahead and talk more about that on tomorrow's episode to preview those 2 games. But I want to talk about where the Philadelphia Phillies are right now in the scope of the city and why it's okay for them to start slow. Realistically, not, but understand what I'm saying here. The Sixers, they have absolutely, look, I'm wearing my Sixers shirt right now. If you're watching on the YouTube, I think most people were delighted the Phillies ended when they did on Sunday, because you could roll right into game 4 of the Eastern Conference semifinals with the Sixers and Celtics. The Sixers have the scope of the city right now on them. We're zoomed in on the Sixers, and that's why I think it's nice for the Philadelphia Phillies that the Sixers are playing well. If the entirety of the city's attention was turned to the Phillies, they'd be getting ripped right now. Luckily, it's not. But the Sixers might only have 2 more games left in their season. Even if they beat Boston, you got about a month left of the NBA playoffs. And then for a couple months, outside of like some Eagles offseason stuff, it's going to be Philadelphia Phillies all the time. And this city can eat you alive if they're fully focused on you and you're not playing well. So the Phillies, they have a little bit of a buffer to figure it out, which is nice for them. But they're going to have to do it quickly before the scope shifts from, okay, we're watching the Sixers and kind of keeping an eye on the Phillies, to, okay, Phillies, my sports summer depends on you. So that starts tomorrow night. Again, Phillies, Blue Jays, 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can go ahead and hear that game, every pitch of the hometown broadcast on the Sirius XM app. Just go to the SXM app and go ahead and search Phillies on there. So quick look at it, because we're going to do the full preview tomorrow. But just to give you an idea of what's coming up, Aaron Nola is going to face off against Alek Manoah, who had a great year last year for the Toronto Blue Jays. And in game 2 of that series, you're going to have Zach Wheeler against Kevin Gausman. So high-level pitching matchups, but this is one of those, where I just said you need Suarez back, so that you're looking at a situation where you get pitchers, like your full series is pitchers that can win a pitching matchup or look like they're better than the person they're matched up against. Well, now you get it because it's a 2-game set. So that's nice to see. And an opportunity for the Phillies. The Blue Jays are 21-14. They're playing well. A tough team. They got to come into Philadelphia. Philly gets another home series before they head on the road out to Colorado and then San Francisco. So a little bit of another West Coast swing coming up. Get your sleep in. But an opportunity against the Blue Jays. And we'll break down that opportunity coming up on tomorrow's episode about what to look for in this 2-game set and how important it is for Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler to have nice starts. One more time, though, I want to remind you, tomorrow night, 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, off night tonight, as I'm recording this on Monday, but go ahead and check out the Phillies hometown broadcast on the Sirius XM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies, and you'll be able to bring that up. That's all for today's Locked On Phillies. Thank goodness we got a win on Sunday, so we can talk about something positive today. Hopefully, we'll get more this week to be positive about, but tomorrow I'm going to try and have an even more positive episode, considering the Phillies don't play tonight, and we can have a look forward at things that have gone right for the Phillies so far this year. So that's what we'll talk about. Of course, thanks again for always checking out Locked On Phillies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure you're rating and reviewing wherever you consume your podcasts, and go ahead and check us out on YouTube as well if you haven't, and subscribe if you go ahead and like the content. Really appreciate that. It significantly helps me and the folks over here at Locked On Out. So go ahead and do that if you enjoy. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.